Hello and welcome to my review of the Adepta Sororitas Exorcist, or Sisters of Battle Exorcist tank from Games Workshop. Now this tank will set you back £50. At first I thought that was quite pricey. Now I think it's totally worth it. It's the same price as a Land Raider, but then again, Land Raiders started off as £30 many years ago, and they've slowly creeped up and creeped up and creeped up. What you're getting with the Land Raider is the size, but what you're getting with this model, this tank, is detail. This has to be one of the most detailed vehicles I've ever had the pleasure of putting together. Now, straight away, I will tell you, it is a labour of love, this vehicle, this model. There's quite a few mould lines to manage, but there are also quite a few joins where you place the parts of the model together and you glue them that may need a repeat of going over, and also, once dry, may need a bit of filing. I've done my best on this tank to minimise that. Also, I would strongly suggest you construct this kit in a multi-part process in terms of building some parts, painting others, and then eventually gluing it all together, but being really careful. I mean, the advantages of painting the parts before you glue them together is that you're going to be able to get detail in all the nooks and crannies, and you're not going to be left with little areas that void of any paint or detail. However, sometimes those areas, as I found with my Warlord Titan, whereby I painted every single piece individually, then glued every piece individually, is either the ghosting from superglue or the possibility of messing up your paint job with the plastic glue if you have any accidents. And after building this model, my experience of it, I would suggest try and glue as many parts as possible before you paint it. There are some obvious pieces in here where it would be better to leave out unpainted, specifically the back organs and the little simulacrum, I want to call it, and even the sister herself. But I'm up for a challenge, as always. Anyway, let's have a look at the model itself. I'll show you some spare parts, then we'll do some size comparisons, and then finally we'll go through all of the rules for this beast of a model. It's incredible. I really love it. It's exceeded my expectations, like a lot of the Sisters of Battle models. It is the second most expensive model in the Sisters of Battle model range now. I can't see that being surpassed by any of the other models. So if you're not going to get Triumph of St. Catherine, this is probably going to be your most priciest piece in your army. So for many of you, this will be a centerpiece, and it will be a lovely focal point for your Sisters of Battle force. So it comes in this box, which I would expect to be the largest Sisters of Battle box now in the force. I don't know whether the Rhino coming out will be as big. It's got a lovely reverse showing different heads for the sister, the Hunter Killer missile launcher. It shows all the three heads, shows the cherubs as well. They're optional, totally optional. There's nothing on the tank itself to allow the cherubs to sort of stay on there, to glue. Unlike Triumph of St. Catherine and the Hospitaller, to some extent. I mean, you can get away with it with the Hospitaller, but that's great. It means that if you did build another Exorcist, you don't have to glue those on there. There's a few things that you don't have to glue on, really. Anyway, let's have a look at the model itself. So as you can see, quite a tall model. It's not quite as tall as Triumph of St. Catherine, but it's definitely going to be the second tallest model in your range. It's got this awesome heavy bolter that moves. You don't need to glue that. It's got a little mechanism in there that allows you to swivel it from side to side. You can see some of the joins there where I've glued and I've had to file, so be careful of that. Even when using a grip vise to squeeze the sides together, you may still be left with a gap, so just be wary of that. The Hunter Killer goes on well. I like all the orders that are on these archways. Little, very, very small smoke launchers. They're quite cute. This front section, I think, would have needed more work. I feel like there's something missing on there. Something like a name or some kind of pattern like it's got on the other bits of armour. Because if you don't cut the pieces off correctly, you're going to be left with... Well, you can see them from here, look. You're going to be left with the extra bits that it was on the sprue for. You can see the scrolls are both different. I've gone for the sister with the organ type helmet. Absolutely incredible. I don't know how she can see. Maybe the lenses are at the top of the helmet and she can see out far. Who actually knows? Maybe she's getting a visual feed in that helmet. You don't have to put that helmet on it. You can put that helmet on a normal sister if you really wish. Whatever you floats your boat really for that one. There's lots of detail in there. She has her hands tinkling the ivories there on the old organ. Got some roses, you know, a few roses there that are intertwined, laid up on each other, and you've got a couple either side. You've got a little sanctum like reliquary kind of thing in the back. You've got these as well that are both different. One is like the like an angel holding this. It looks a bit like that cherub actually. And then the other one is the spirit of Catherine, I think, with the sword and the shield. Then you've got these trumpets, I want to call them. And then you've got the exit ports for the missiles themselves. You do get two different types of missiles you can load in this. I mean, the rules for the Exorcist allow you to have two firing options anyway, so it doesn't matter which missiles you put on, because when you're playing a game you can pick either or. So that's nice. You're not shoehorned into which type of missiles you kind of have to pick for the model. It's what you prefer. For my second one, and I will be getting a second one hands down because it's such a lovely kit, it actually took me longer than I expected to build as well. But for my second one, I'm going to go for the smaller missiles and not have the cherubs at all. I may still have these little halo things, you know, these pieces, and obviously the head for the sister I will change, but everything else will remain the same. If I've got some extra scrolls and things, I might put some of those on there. But as you can see, there's a lot going on. You know, there's a lot of detail. You know, everything from these brazier type exhausts that look amazing, you know, to these individual statues in the armor. They're like fully 3D in there as well, and this is all one piece, because the wheels and the side armor was all one piece. You only had to put the braziers on and the exhausts, I suppose, and the big Demos pattern kind of doors on there as well. But yeah, each one of these statuettes in the armour is unique and individual, and I'm really looking forward to the Rhino. I wonder if the Rhino is just these side parts and then a different top bit. We'll have to see. And then you've got these on the back. Fortunately, this door doesn't open. That kind of sucks. I do wonder if it's going to be available to be opened, if that's an option for the Rhino. Let's hope it is, because I do like openable hatch doors for rhinos. I think it's quite cool from a thematic point of view, having one of these with the rear door open with a couple of sisters popping out. A fair bit of detail, like there's wood here, or it looks like wood, and then the angel wings come out quite well if you join them, and then you've got these exhaust vents for the missiles. So yeah, I really like this Hunter Killer missile. I might put one of those on the Rhino. The only thing it's a bit odd is like the dozer blade. It's kind of really rustic and not what you'd expect for an Imperial vehicle. It just looks like, you know, some kind of iron fence that they've stuck on. It looks more chaos than Imperial. It would have been nice if they had some kind of fleur-de-lis icons on the top. I think that would have been better, in my opinion. But yeah, that's the only thing that sort of doesn't fit well with me in this whole aesthetic. Everything else is really ornate, lots of detail, gothic, except for this front kind of grill thing. But anyway, that's my only kind of little gripe with the whole look of the kit. Okay then, let's have a look at some size comparisons. So straight away, I just want to compare the height with the Triumph of St. Catherine. Well, this is part of the Triumph of St. Catherine anyway. As you can see, the cherub, the very top cherub, does beat the Exorcist, but of course, you know, the Exorcist has so much more, I want to say, presence in terms of its footprint. So yeah, that's how big it is. So if you don't get the Triumph of St. Catherine for £65, at least for £15 less, you're getting the Exorcist, which in my opinion, with all the detail and things that are going on, you're getting an almost equal kit there with the amount of detail. And I think actually the Exorcist took me longer to build than Triumph of St. Catherine. Then next to a Penitent engine. You know, I thought Penitent engines were quite big, but no, this sister is actually taller than a Penitent engine when she's sat down. So that gives you an idea of how big the Penitent engines are next to the Exorcist. Exorcist is a big tank compared to that. And then a normal Sisters of Battle, just popping on there next to the tank. Yeah, this will work very well with a group of Retributors or whatever. And finally, because I've got Saint Celestine, I might as well put Saint Celestine there. Saint Celestine is flying up there just to have a little go on the organ as well. Fire off a few missiles, and then maybe a few doves will shoot out the exhausters. Maybe some of the doves will shoot out the silos as well. Who knows? Homing pigeons. Yeah, wow, that takes me back. Maybe there's a few homing pigeons in there as ammunition. Anyway, I've done things in the wrong order, obviously, because I forgot the spare parts, which are here. So we'll just show you those. These are the little missiles. I like them. I think they're pretty cool. Up to you which ones you want to put on. If you can see them, if I can zoom in for you. Both of the missile types work well. It's just for me, these kind of rockets look very bunched up, in my opinion. You know, cramming 3 into each one of these pipes. Yeah, it just, you know, with the bigger missiles, it kind of looked like a missile launcher, whereas this, it definitely does. But yeah. And then you get the 2 heads as well. You get this one, which I'm definitely going to use next time. I might put on a Seraphim, I'm not sure. This head, her hair is swaying. She looks like she's really in the mood of the music that she's playing. And then this one, no hair, pretty serious. And she's got, whoa, skill, an eye patch too. So they're all your spare parts, just 2 heads, which they're rounded on the bottom, so you could sort of use them for your normal sisters and the alternative missiles. That's all you get in terms of spare parts, so you're not, which is good in a way, but it would have been nice if there were more scrolls, like a little bit of a accessory sprue or something that you get with a Rhino. That would have been a good little extra. Size comparisons with models that you might be more familiar with in terms of Space Marines. You've got a normal Space Marine, as always, on the left, and a Primaris on the right. Yeah, it kind of does dwarf the Primaris. Primaris doesn't even come up to the top of the Rhino. So, yeah. I mean, maybe if you've got 10 Primaris around them, then yeah, but definitely it is a big tank. You know, it's got a lot of presence height-wise. However, I wouldn't be much of a reviewer if I didn't show you some other vehicle size comparisons. So I've got a Death Guard Rhino here. Very interesting, actually, that it is, I kind of want to say the same height, but it's sort of hard to say. I would say that the Rhino is a little bit higher, but that's because if you've watched any of the developer interviews and things, they said that the Exorcist Rhino is on like a lower suspension, and you can see that. You can see that there's less of the wheels showing. So that's why that gives it a kind of a lower kind of look to it. Lengthwise, they seem to be similar length. It's hard to say, but definitely height-wise, the Rhino is just a smidgen taller. Another Death Guard vehicle that I've got, which is another, I'll say, indirect firing vehicle. The Exorcist, unfortunately, which is quite odd, needs line of sight with enemies. But this Plague Burst Crawler, which is 48-inch range as well, doesn't need direct line of sight because it's a mortar weapon. But I thought that would be interesting just to show you the size comparison between them. Obviously, yeah, way more detail on the Exorcist compared to the Plague Burst Crawler. Technically, is it more heavily armed? I'm not sure. I mean, you've got the entropy cannons, you've got this weapon, and you've got the mortar as well. And on the Exorcist, you've only got the missile launcher and the heavy bolter. But anyway, hopefully that helps. Next to a couple of more Imperial Space Marine vehicles, I do have a repulsor on the right and another an impulsor on the left. Now, bearing in mind, the impulsor on the left is just £5 cheaper than the Exorcist. And yeah, you can see just how much more you get for your £5 if you want to look at it that way. You get way more detail. And if I had the money just for one, I'd go for the Exorcist every time. It's just a far more impressive kit. I much preferred it as a kit. It took me longer to build than the Impulsor. And it's a dedicated heavy tank for the sisters. And the Impulsor, don't know what it's trying to be really. It's not really a dedicated transport, it's not really a dedicated tank. And then you've got the Repulsor there, which, yeah, is a bit of a big boy. That's, but with a small turret, obviously. Just thought those size comparisons would help. Obviously, the Repulsor is also the same price as the Exorcist, let's not forget. This is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Exorcist tank. You'll find it in the heavy support section of the Sisters of Battle Codex. Luckily, it only has to compete with 3 other heavy support choices, and 2 of them are very similar, you know, the Penitent Engines and the Mortifiers. You've got the Devastator equivalent, the Retributor squad for the sisters, just sisters with heavy weapons that can move and shoot. So the Exorcist, it is the most expensive heavy support choice in your Sisters of Battle army. It is a power points cost of an 8 and a points cost of 90. You're going to have to buy the Exorcist missile launcher, which will cost you 70 points, or instead of the missile launcher, you can pay 40 points for the conflagration rockets. So either way, it's going to be 160 points or 130 points. Quite pricey at 160 points. Let's go through its stat line. It's one of these models, like quite a few vehicles, whereby the remaining wounds affects its movement, ballistic skill and attacks. So it starts off with 12 wounds, and if it's got between 7 and 12, has a movement speed of 12 inches, ballistic skill 3+, and attacks 3. That's quite decent. That movement speed of 12 inches is pretty good for a tank. That's the same speed as a Rhino. If it's got between 4 and 6 wounds, its movement speed drops by half to 6 inches, ballistic skill drops to 4+, and attacks to D3. And when it's got between 1 and 3 wounds, its movement speed drops down to 4 inches, ballistic skill 5+, and attacks 1. Now that's still 1 inch faster than both the Rhino and the Immolator at between 1 to 3 wounds. So bear that in mind. The other characteristics of the profile is its weapon skill is 6+, strength is 7, its toughness is 8, it's got 12 wounds, leadership 7 and a save of 3+. Now it's good that it's got 12 wounds. That means that there's more there than the Rhino and Immolator. And it's also good that its toughness is 8. Again, that's 1 better than the Rhino and the Immolator. It's a single model equipped with an Exorcist missile launcher and heavy bolter. Of course, you're also going to have to buy that heavy bolter for an extra 10 points, so I have to retract my previous statement about points. Thereby it's going to be 170 points or 140 points. So it comes with that Exorcist missile launcher, which is a 48-inch range, heavy D3, strength 8, AP -3 and a damage of D6. Very decent. It's got a really strong range. Statistically, it's going to get 6 shots or more at strength 8, AP -3 and a damage D6. That's going to be very damaging to high toughness, good save models. You can swap that out and have the conflagration rockets. Same range, but this time you've got a heavy 3d6. Now statistically, you could get 3 if you're really unlucky, or you could get 18 shots. So there is a bit of a gamble there. It's got a decent strength at strength 5. AP is -2, but the damage is only 1. It also has a heavy bolter, which is a 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 5, AP -1 and a damage of 1. You have to take that. But you can also give it the Hunter Killer missile, which I have, which is another 48-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, AP -2, damage D6, but the bearer can only shoot with this weapon once per battle. Hunter Killer missiles have kind of lost their edge a little bit. They're an alright weapon. They used to be a nice one-hit, one-kill weapon against other vehicles that would pop them. But since the wounds have come in, and since toughness for vehicles, and since you can heal vehicles easier now, they're not as useful as they once were, in my opinion. However, they are quite cheap. It's only 6 points if you want one of those. They used to be infinite range as well. Anyway, war gear options, as I said, you can swap the Exorcist conflagration rockets out from that Exorcist missile launcher, and also it says, yeah, you can additionally equip it with a Hunter Killer missile. Now, abilities though, the vehicle does have Axe of Faith, Sacred Rites and Shield of Faith. So that's quite decent in that it does have that invulnerable save of 6+, and you know, if you've got a decent HQ unit that can lower that save to a 5+ or even 4+, then that's going to help its survivability. It explodes when this model is destroyed. Roll 1d6 before removing it from play. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds, and then smoke launchers. Once per battle, instead of shooting in your shooting phase, this model can use its smoke launchers until the start of your next shooting phase. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against this model, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So that's good if you haven't got line of sight, or you're going to move and you haven't got line of sight. Pop in the smoke launchers. It's going to help the survivability on top of the 3+ save, the toughness 8 and its invulnerable 6+ save. Keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Ministorum, Adeptus Sororitas, Vehicle and Exorcist. I think it's a decent vehicle. It can be a bit pricey, but other than squeezing in 5 Retributors with multi-melters, other than trying to charge high toughness units with mortar fires or something that can get up close, it's the only real weapon in the Sisters of Battle army that has reach. It's the only weapon in the whole codex that has a 48-inch range, other than the Hunter Killer missile launcher. So therefore it really highlights one of the weaknesses of the Sisters of Battle army is that reach, their lack of reach, with this being the only model that can do that. You've got models that have decent abilities, that are quite fast and that are alright in combat, but the whole army is lacking in like a delivery method in terms of a flyer or even anti-flyer. Maybe we'll get a variant of this that has anti-air missiles or a completely new kit itself. It highlights some of the weaknesses that a brand new army in this range typically has. Adeptus Mechanicus had it when it started. Gene Stealer cults had a few weaknesses and they've been built upon. And now Sisters, because it's basically brand new, you're seeing some of those weaknesses shine through. Where you would use this vehicle is you need that line of sight with those missiles. It would be to soften up units for your other forces to jump on, either shooting them in close combat with the high Inferno pistols, or moving forward with Retributor squads, or flanking with Zephyrim or Penitent engines or mortifiers, or trying to wipe out models on an objective. But If they're in cover, they're going to be getting those cover saves against your rockets. I just think it's missing its own ability, like a couple of things in the Codex. I wish it had an extra missile profile, or it had some kind of volley shot or missile fury or bombardment overture kind of ability. That's what I'd write into this, where she just goes crazy on the old keys and launches everything at once, like all missiles, fire everything, and you can only use it once, but it's absolutely horrific for the enemy. That's just what I think that this model is lacking, some kind of unique touch, rather than, oh, it's a missile launcher on a tank. Yeah, okay, it is heavy 3D3, but it's a missile launcher at the end of the day. You know, we're seeing other vehicles like the Whirlwind, like the Plague Burst Crawler, like the Thunderfire Cannon even, have unique abilities. I just wish that this one had one too. Anyway, absolutely stunning model, a joy to put together, and a great addition to the army. Really looking forward to the Immolator now, and the Rhino. I've been very impressed with the Sisters of Battle range so far. Apologies that these videos have taken quite a while to come out. They do take me some time to build and to get the reviews out. But luckily Games Workshop have given me a bit of a breather in terms of their Sisters of Battle releases. So I'm now able to focus more on these videos. But thank you for your patience. It's always appreciated. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.